All right, here we are. Just adjusting these things here. Not so simple. All right, if I'm a little crooked, it's the camera, it's not me. Camera's crooked, not me. All right. Shoftim lecha, titen lecha. This week's parsha, right? We're gonna have a rocket ship share this time. It might only be 10 minutes, but we'll get in everything hopefully.
It's cold.
It's freezing. Yeah, here, take my scarf.
You can do it.
No, do it seriously. I'm a scarf guy, but since I'm talking, maybe I'll have a little more energy. So it says, Shoftim titen lecha. Shoftim, everyone knows, are the judges. Shoftim are the guys with the rods, the policemen. What? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you need both. You need both. So Chafetz Chaim wrote Shmiras HaLashon and his sefer Chafetz Chaim, hence the name, because he said that if you want to keep away from speaking bad, so you got to have two things. You got to first of all know what bad is and what good is. If you don't know the halacha, then you can't keep away from it because you don't know anything. But even after you know it, you have to have the aspect also of being inspired and seeing how important it is. So Mamela, he said that he wrote both of those for him. So too, I think the Torah is teaching you over here that for everything in life, in Yiddishkeit, you got to have both. You got to know what's right and what's wrong. But then, you can be like many people nowadays, like, okay, big deal. Okay, just put on tefillin. Who cares? Then you have to have the inspiration, which sometimes comes from seeing how serious it is, or sometimes how high it is and how awesome it is. Whatever it is that you have to inspire yourself to do it.
Rebbe.
You gotta do it. Or what? A Rebbe? Or a Rebbe, or a tzaddik, someone to look up to. Yeah, exactly.
It's all subjective, what's right and what's wrong, what this moment and that moment and who and what. And...
That's a nekuda also, right? You have to know what to do. That's actually an interesting word, because in this week's parsha it also mentions the words loy sasur. Loy sasur, you shouldn't deviate from the words yom and small, right or left from the words of the tzaddikim. So Rabbi Tzal Melter asks, why doesn't it say black and white? You know, if the Rebbe says that this thing is black and you say it's white, you have to listen to the Rebbe. Why doesn't it say that if the Rebbe says, you know, when it's daytime, it's night, you have to believe him that it's night? Why does it say when he says right and left? So he says a beautiful thought. He says it's specifically teaching you something in this whole concept of listening to your Rebbe. That when I come to you, I have this a lot of times when I'm dressing my kid. So you try to dress your kids and you try to, you know, recognize what's the right side and what's the left side, to try to do the right side first, as you're supposed to put on the right side of clothing first. So you're like trying to put on the right sock first on your kid,
left side,
but it's the left side for him. So you have to always like trip your mind out a little bit backwards and try to put it on the right way, but it's the wrong way. It gets confusing, right? So he says that when you look at a tzaddik and when you look at another person, you say, oh, here's your right hand. So you're saying, look, it's your right hand. The guy's like saying, no, that's your left hand, because to him it's the left. So too, when a tzaddik tells you to do something and you're like, no, it's the wrong thing to do, it's the left hand, you have to realize that he's having a different perspective. He's seeing things from a different view, and from that view he's telling you, don't do it, or do it, right? And the occasionally, you know, it depends which tzaddik you're connected with. Occasionally that has to do with just incredibly, there's stories of Reb Chaim Brisker and stuff that he would say things that seemed like Ruach HaKodesh, and in the end he said it's not Ruach HaKodesh. I was just, you know, he had like this lumdish way of looking at everything. They figured everything out, and he said what to do. So occasionally it's like that. You have a tzaddik that's mamish brilliant, or in his insight in life he knows what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing. Or you can have a tzaddikim that kipshuta, that have mamish connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Ruach HaKodesh, that mamish see things that we can't necessarily see, and they say, don't do it. Don't do it, you know. My kid was actually a very interesting thing, just because it popped into my mind. There's a famous story. My kid actually, we walked to shul on Shabbos, so my little 9-year-old. So I don't know how we got into the conversation. We got into the conversation about Rabbi Baruch Ber, the famous story that before the Holocaust he was walking with one of his talmidim, and he was telling him, this plant is good, that plant is bad, don't eat this, this is poison, this is also kill you. His Talmud didn't know what he was talking about. Sure enough, in the war, his Talmud ended up in the forest. He had nothing to eat, and he knew exactly what to eat, and other people were dying from eating the wrong plants, and he managed survived the war. So, unbelievable story. So my little 9-year-old, a question that only a little kid could ask, and said, if he knew what was happening, why didn't you just tell him to go to America? Why didn't you tell him, get out? There's a world war coming. Everyone's going to be in the forest trying to survive. Just go away. Go to America. Go to Israel. Go somewhere.
He didn't know exactly, but he knew.
So you can answer that. You can answer that. You know,
exactly what.
Tzadikim knew be'erech. So that could be an answer. But the question was powerful. And then he himself, we were schmoozing in Agav, we were just speaking on the side in that walk. We just spoke about America before the war and how crazy it was and how difficult it was and how the American people just didn't let anyone be Jewish because you wouldn't have food to eat because they would fire you. And so basically anyone that came to America, it was almost impossible to stay Shomer Shabbos. Very mami yichidim, certain people stayed, but it was very difficult. So then all of a sudden he comes over to me after like an hour and he's like, maybe that's why Baruch Ber didn't tell him. Because if he would have told him, he would have gone to America and he might have lost all of his Yiddishkeit and generations wouldn't have been from.
No,
he says,
wasn't there stories where they said, I'd rather go back to Europe? I'd rather, what's going on? I'd rather go back and...
I'm saying it, maybe, he said maybe that was his cheshbon. So I thought that was incredible. You could see that the tzaddik could have such insight and what he's saying could have, I don't know if that's the truth of it, the whole story to the depth of it, but it could very well be. Anyways, it's a very interesting thing that Rav Zalman Meltzer mentions over here because of that. Just one really short vart that has to do with let's see something. Let's play with this. Swipe left to view comments. Love this. Let's play with this video. The pasuk over here in the parsha says, "Tamim tiyem Hashem Elokecha." Right? Be simple with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You don't have to know the future. You don't have to know the past so much. I mean, it's talking about specifically doing occult type of divine things to try to figure out the future. You don't need to know it. Just go simply with Hashem. One of the Hasidic Rebbes, I think it was the Talmud, I don't remember 100%, says that you should read it like this. Tamim. What does Tamim mean? Torah is Hashem Tamima. The Torah is Tam. The Torah is Tam. So Tamim, the Torah that you learn, Tiyah and Hashem Elokecha. Make sure that it's with Hashem. Right? You have some people sometimes that are learning so much, learning, and there's like a famous story with that. And the guy says, what about Hashem? He goes, who has time for Hashem? I'm learning so much. Who has time for Hashem? I just was speaking to someone. He said his brother, he's mamish the most stark guy. He lives out in some place in Eretz Yisrael, and he just sits and learns, and he's poor, and him and his wife are just, every time he calls them, he's like speaking to them, and all they're like is Hashem. No, Hashem's gonna help, and because we're trying to be close to Hashem. He's like, all they live with is Hashem. And after like 5 more minutes, I was like thinking of asking him, is your brother, what is he? And all of a sudden he's like, and he's very stark Breslover. And I was like, that's the way, like when you speak to people, a lot of times when you speak to, the words that are coming out of their mouth all the time are just like Hashem. And even just when you speak to a lot of people in Eretz Yisrael in general, they'll mention, the hashgacha, and I went, the sprach, the words are very often much more filled with words of emunah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Tam Tiyem Hashem Elokecha, when you're learning Torah, try to make sure that it's with Hashem. There's a classical stira in this parsha. It's really a repeat. Everything in these parshas are repeats. That it says they're going out to war. They're going out to battle, right? They're going out to battle, and there's a vart that when they're going out to battle, they should not go out if they're afraid of sin, right? Any sins that they got, go back. And then there's a pasuk that says Shema Yisrael, famous thing that Kohen, the Meshurach Milchama says, Shema Yisrael, listen up, guys, we're going out to war, don't be afraid, don't be rachlev, go into the battle, be strong. So the question is, a couple of seconds ago you said, the guy has one little sin, the example the Gemara brings, he speaks in between Tefillin Shel Yad, Tefillin Shel Rosh, whatever it is, he should be afraid. And then Shema Yisrael, Rashi says, even b'schus one Shema Yisrael, you'll be worthy to be saved. So what? One mitzvah, you're worthy to be saved, one avera, you're afraid. What's going on? So Rabbi Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik, he answers like this. I heard it from one of his Talmidim. I never saw it inside. He answers that when the difference is yourself and others. When it's yourself, so then you got to judge yourself harshly. You got to say, even one small Avera, I got to be careful. When it's another guy, I don't say, look at that guy, an Avera, you know. There you judge him. One small thing that you find good is amazing. The Kotzker, he says like this. He says, if you're afraid, the guy has fear for some reason or another, then even a small sin has to be careful of. But if he's not afraid, he has a lot of strength, then even one Shema Yisrael is going to help him, and he's going to be fine. He says, the Zohar says that the Yetzer Hara is called Kalvin the Chatzifin, like very chutzpahdik dogs. Rabbi Yaakov Meir Shechler says, why? Because when you see a dog, right, and you start running away from it, what happens?
Gets you.
The dog gets you. And if you stand up to the dog and you just, right, a friend of mine always used to say that one of his, he always told me this. He said that his father was once there somewhere and the dog started chasing after him. So I don't know if it actually happened, but this is the classical story from his father. He said his father just took his foot, kicked the dog's sword, like a huge vicious dog, boom, right in the nose, and the dog just fell on his face and ran away. That's the nekuda, that when you the the leftovers from the song. So when you have a little bit, when the Yetzer Hara comes at you, you got to be like that. That's what he's saying. You got to be like that. You got to be strong. You got to be unafraid. I had a story once with the crazy dogs in the forest in Ramat Eshkol. It was a really rainy day, cold day. And thank God, I guess it doesn't really matter, but I was with my my big umbrella, and I was with the trench coat and everything. You know, not trench coat, like decked out. It was pouring rain. I was going to do this in the forest in Ramat Eshkol, and all of a sudden the wild dogs came at me. Now the wild dogs hang out in the forest. They're pretty intense. Nowadays they're going through crazy stuff in Ramat Beit Shemesh with these wild dogs, trying to deal with them. But they're just like these huge, vicious wild dogs that live in the forest there. You see them sometimes, and generally they don't mess with you. They're one or two. Here's like 8 of them. And they all came charging at me. I guess because it was raining and they were hungry. I don't know what. It was the winter. And they all came charging at me. So I'm not a big dog lover.
Called the Hashem card.
I'm not a big dog lover. I'm not a big animal guy. I'm not like one of these guys and be like, oh, Muji, or like, know what to do. I won't know what to do. I never touch dogs. I don't like these things. So the first thing is I turn around. I'm like, okay, is there a fence or a tree I can climb or something? Nothing. I'm stuck with these guys. There's nowhere I can run. And I know that if you run, that's the worst thing you could possibly do with these dogs. So I don't know. I got filled with such godly energy. Like, I guess it's like fight or flight. And being that flight wasn't an option, I just like fought. And I just started screaming at the top of my lungs. Well, yeah, like the pasuk you're supposed to say. I don't even know the rest of the words. I think you're supposed to say the whole pasuk. But I just started screaming at them. I took my umbrella. I started going, and they were like trying, literally like 8 wild, vicious dogs charging at me. And it was pouring rain. And I was like, take my stick, and I was like, well, yeah, let's go, I would like swing at them. And they would keep charging at me. This happened for like 25 seconds, which was like a really long time. And I just kept screaming on the top of my lungs with all my energy. And like, I was like, I meant it. At a certain point, they like, literally after like 20 seconds, they were like stop. And then I just went after them again. I was like, you, and I just started chasing him, and he ran away. It was like insane. But that's what the Rabbi Yaakov Meir Shechler is saying, is that when the Yetzer Hara comes at you, a lot of times you get, oh my gosh, oh this or that. He says, don't be afraid of them, pum faket. Go after them. Just realize there's a story that Rav Matel of Slonim says over later on in the parsha. He says it in a different context. Let me try to find it. He says it in the it's not here. All right. No, yeah, I think half of my share just got wiped out from the computer, but it's okay. Oh no, here it is. Yeah, he says that 2 tzaddikim, they made a pact with each other. This goes back to the shaychad issue. This week's parsha also speaks about shaychad, bribery, that you shouldn't take bribery no matter what. Bribery messes people up. Even as all the stories that we know from when we were a kid, even if you don't even know that you accepted the bribery, it will subconsciously affect you. So there were 2 tzaddikim, and when they died, they said they made a pact. Whoever dies first is going to got to come to the other one and tell us what's happening. So the first one died, and he came to his friend in a dream, and he said, Mamish, everything was great. they judged me. They said I was good, Gan Eden. But one thing, one time you were judging a case and someone slipped a $20 bill in your pocket, and because of that $20 bill you didn't even know about, it affected your judgment. Immediately you gotta go deal with that. Okay? Gotta deal with it. What am I supposed to do? So they gave him a little hammer and they took him to this massive castle. They said, okay, start chipping away. Take his little hammer, start chipping away, and when you finish chipping away at this castle, you'll go to Gan Eden. Good couple of years. So he's like broken, depressed. Here he is his whole life because of one thing. He's so sad. And he says to himself, you know what? My whole life I was serving Hashem. Whatever he told me to do, I did. So here I am. This is what I gotta do in the next world. Serve Hashem in the next world. He takes the hammer, starts chopping away at the thing. Boom! The whole castle crumbles down, and he gets led into Gan Eden. So he says, besides for the part that the sheicha, the bribery, affects people, he says also with the Yetzer Hara, he comes and he tells us, it comes with just a little bit of a chip, a little bit of a thing. It's hard when it starts, like an airplane. They put full thrust and everything. You need like all the engines and everything, and then when you get up there, technically you could just like practically glide for a good couple miles. Hashem, it shouldn't happen, but and basically the engines go, the RPMs when you're going up the hill, and then once you're cruising, you're okay. The RPMs go down. So too, with the Yetzer Hara, a lot of times we just have to not be afraid. Just blow through that first level, and to get to the place of where we can actually cruise a little bit. Not that there's ever a cruising, but there could be a bechina of it. And just one more nakuda to finish off on this short share from Sheichad, that it says in the Gemara there that even if the guy does something so small, you shouldn't judge. Right, there was a story that a judge was sitting there, and a guy came in and he said, you have a feather on your hat, and he blew it off. And then he said, what are you here for? I'm here to be judged. He said, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm taking myself away from this case. Why? Because you just did me a favor. You blew the feather off my hat. Feather off a guy's hat, Come on, be real. So Rav Pam says from this, you see how great it is to appreciate something. He says that here you have a guy did something so small to you. Most people would be like, if a guy gives me something, does something, you're walking down the street and some guy goes, hey, knocks off a little fly off your back. You're like, all right, thanks a lot, Don't think twice about it. No, but he says that shows us that these tzaddikim who were the judges appreciated things so intensely. They worked on appreciating every button they had, every breath they had, everything. That if someone would do something, they would mamash appreciate it, and it would mamash affect them. Ad kedei kach, that they would change their judgment. So too over here, he says that we got to appreciate everything that we have. Like the Chasam Sofer that we had on the eclipse that was going around, that the eclipse was something that we saw this week, the solar eclipse. And he says that it's like mamish to show us that we have the sun every day, but just hold something in front of it for a second, things are dark, and then take it back away and say, wow, look what we have. So if we want to appreciate things, if we take it away, and we don't have to take it away physically, sometimes we could do that, or we could just imagine it, focus it in our mind, what life would be like without it. We could have much more appreciation for it. Hashem Yizakenu, should appreciate everything and have strength to go through all the battles of the Yetzer Hara and not to show any fear, and from there to come out to Sheach Tzidkenu, Tomem Tiyeh, Hashem Alekechem, Hevi Min Mamish, Amen, Shkoyach, a good Shabbos. Shabbos.